Today, we catch up with Bo Kimble, who took Loyola Marymount to the Elite Eight in 1990 after the death of his good friend and teammate, Hank Gathers. All right, now pleased to welcome in none other than Bo Kimble, a star in the NCAA tournament. Not that long ago, Bo, right? 1990 seems like yesterday.
Yeah, just 31 years, Jeff. But thanks for having me, and glad to be here this morning.
All right, so we want to kind of relive some of these moments, seasons, and man, I was a college kid when you guys were going through that. And first of all, that offense Paul Westhead implemented had to be the ultimate dream for a player. I mean, you guys set records that still stand today for scoring. It was just basically, hey, you know what? You didn't even have to be open to be able to shoot it, right?
Oh, correct. It was an offense. It was a scoring system that encourages you that if you run the system properly, you should be able to get a shot every 4 or 5 seconds on every possession. And made or miss, we would have two of the wing guys in both corners, the 2 and the 3, and one of them is going to be open within 4 seconds. And if we're open, we're highly encouraged to shoot. For someone like my game, who I felt I was a great shooter, but I was actually a stronger scorer.
Yes.
And once, for being in that type of offense, being able to just take a 3 every time I touch it, or just take the ball to the rim and never have to worry about mistakes, never have to worry about being passive. It was encouraged to be aggressive. Jeff Fryer, every time he was open, the opponents might have been shocked if he shot 30 times in a row, but we wouldn't have been. Same thing with Hank Gathers, a player who most big men who played a 4 position and a 5 position would not be encouraged to go coast to coast if the point guard is not available. Hank was able to shoot the ball, get all these offensive rebounds, leading the nation in scoring and rebounding. But every time he got it in the paint, we knew that unless he passes it, that ball's going up, and we didn't expect him to pass. So it was just a fun offense, and a dream offense for players in our, being in college, being Division I, having a coach that says, hey, man, if you don't shoot it every time you open, why don't you have a seat next to me? Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, you guys kind of lucked into it in a way, right? I mean, you go to USC and the coaching change happens, and George Raveling basically says, hey, we need to know now, or else we're not going to renew your scholarships. And you end up at the perfect place for you with Paul Westhead, who lets you go. Hank leads the country in scoring, I think, in 89, and then you lead the country in scoring in 90. And started with that season started with a game against UNLV that was kind of crazy, wasn't it? Wasn't there like a bomb scare or something like that in the middle of the game?
Yeah, so let me go back to the SC part first. Let me be crystal clear. Hank Gathers and I did not want to leave USC. We really didn't. We were recruited by Dave Spencer, who's still in my life today, one of my closest people in my life. He recruited us well. USC was an incredible school to play for. So it was a shock to us when they fired Stan Morrison, our head coach. So we tried our best to stay there, but it didn't work out. As a result, we were blessed to go over to Loyola Marymount with Paul Westhead. That was encouraged by the late Father Dave Hagan, Hank Gathers' elementary coach.
Really?
So we go over there and we luck up and be in this offense. And so now transitioning to UNLV. So every year at Loyola Marymount since 86, we led the nation in scoring, averaging over 100 points a game. And I think our senior year was about 124 points a game. So now our senior year, we go up against UNLV, the first game of the season. And, they have Larry Johnson, Greg Butler, they have Greg Anthony Hunt, Stacey Augment. They are loaded with NBA first rounders. And they had a great team, and Terry and Tark was the coach. But they called the bomb, make a long story short, they called a bomb threat. We were on like a 28-4 run. And by the way, that game is televised on ESPN if people want to see it for themselves. Wow. They called a bomb threat. We was on a 28-4 run. And the only bomb that was in the building was Loyola Marymount on a 28-4 run. So they called the bomb threat, stopped play for about 20 minutes. about 4 minutes before the halftime. And then we had a normal halftime break. So they kind of cheated us out of the experience of taking teams conditionally over the edge and see how they navigated that one. And obviously, when we played them in the tournament, Hank had died, so we didn't get that opportunity to play them again. And unfortunately, they wouldn't have been able to call a bomb threat. But I humbly believe, with no disrespect to UNLV, because they were an amazing team, that if Hank Gathers would have been alive, I really do believe we would have won the championship, because the moment the ball went up, they would have been down by 20, because we averaged 124 and they averaged 104. So
did you ever,
it wasn't meant to be.
Did you ever find out, did anybody ever admit that they called in the bomb threat?
No, but we know better. I mean, you're in Vegas, and the bookies were like, "Oh no, we have to have a plan B." So it's smart on their part, So, but it's all just happy talk, and but playing at Loyola Marymount was a dream come true. Playing for Paul Westhead, the closeness to the team, to Tom Peabody and all the other great role players, Chris Knight, and Terrell Lowry and Tony Walker. We were like brothers, and we were so close before Hank died. And so when he died, the fact that we inspired a nation, became the Cinderella team. And every time I look back at that moment, when I look at the tapes, I'm just so proud to be that collectively as a team, that we all turned our grief and our pain of losing Hank into our play, and that inspired the nation. And I'm very proud at age 23 that we're still celebrating that 31 years later.
No doubt, no doubt. Go to that day, Bo, that day on March 4th against Portland, the WCC tournament. And, Hank already had some heart issues that you guys knew about, but, years later, I assume that memory is still so vivid. That picture is so vivid in your mind. How shocking was it to see what happened, and all of a sudden this guy that was such a man-child in a way, right? I mean, he was kind of personified toughness and athleticism and strength and all of that. And what was that moment like?
Yeah, so for those that didn't know Hank Gathers, Hank Gathers was one that was full of enormous energy, endless energy. He was always the center of attention, the life of the crowd, the jokester. Being friends with Hank Gathers for our teammates, anybody that know who Dave Chappelle is and know what he is as a great comedian, every time I see Dave Chappelle, I think of Hank Gathers, just because he was really just like that. But on that night, even though Hank went down, we thought that it would be something similar to what happened at Santa Barbara. The last thing that crossed my mind, particularly, that when Hank went down, that he wouldn't make it through the night. And it was shocking to everyone. The doctors and the team, from what I read, was trying to navigate how to, if Hank took the full dosage, it was making him too sluggish where he couldn't be Hank Gathers on the court. Right. So they're slowly reducing it a little bit here and there. And I also read, 15 years later, that in the LA Times, that I don't think Hank went to the doctor that day, and potentially knowing Hank being so determined to play well, he might didn't take the medication as well. I don't know, but so those factors played into it, and Hank's intensity and determination to want to play well and provide for his family, maybe those things came to a head, and it was the ultimate risk not to take. And when you're 23 years old, you feel like invincible. And Hank, I know how he felt, because I felt the same way. And you just feel invincible. You feel like, hey, I'm just going to not maybe take the medicine this weekend, and I need to dominate and be Hank on the court. And unfortunately, I believe that was the ultimate sacrifice and risk that shouldn't have been taken. And there's no guarantee, when he had a hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and a large heart, and there was no guarantee that if he had stopped playing, he still would have had to deal with that issue. But unfortunately, he took the risk, and we lost him on March 4th, 1990.
Before we continue that interview, I have to let you guys know that it's that time of year again. We waited 2 years for this moment, and it's finally here. March's biggest tournament is back. Gonzaga is getting ready to run the table. Slippers are being fit as we speak. And our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook, are putting our listeners at the center of the action. How? If you bet $4 on an underdog in a select game this week, and that underdog wins, you win $256. That's right, $256. Here's how it works. Download the app now and use the promo code FIELD68 when you sign up. Scroll through the list of select underdogs, bet $4 on them to win, and cash $256 when they do. There's no better way for you to put your college hoops knowledge to use than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. It's safe, it's secure, it's reliable, and you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. So remember, the code is FIELD68. That's FIELD68 to turn $4 into $256. For a limited time only, must be 21 years or older. Restrictions apply. Go to DraftKings.com for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So he passes away. You guys go back to Philly, where you're from, for his funeral, and then play in the NCAA tournament game. You get the automatic berth. They cancel the WCC tournament. Yes. You guys get the number 11 seed, and you open with New Mexico State. What are you thinking at that point? How heavy is your heart? How hard is it for you to focus going to the NCAA tournament? It's still really, really recent and fresh in your mind that you should have Hank with you.
Yeah, as many stories are tied to that. So Hank Gathers and I were the captains of the team, and Hank was our, rah-rah spiritual leader, and I was kind of the quiet, lead by example type of leader. And but we used to always run around when coach starts practice, Hank and I would lead the team around a very casual jog around the gym. And I made the first jog. This was the first practice after Hank's death, after the funeral in Philadelphia, the funeral in Los Angeles. And I just remember after I took the first lap, what I needed personally and selfishly, what I needed to do is to just run outside the door and just have a good cry, just just deal with my heavy heart. Sure. I chose not to do that. Thank God I didn't do it, actually, but that's what I needed to do. But what I did is I just proceeded around the second time. And I feel that if I would have went outside that door and they saw me break down, the team was kind of gathering strength from me, because I knew Hank 11 years and a lot longer, twice the amount of time that the team did. So I pushed through it. So I just remember that just being just inspiration. Also, when I was on the way to the game, the Long Beach game against New Mexico State, I had about 80 letters and I got a chance to read. It was about a 40-minute ride. And I remember reading about 25, 30 letters from all over the world, fans that wrote to me about Hank and, how he inspired, how our team inspired, how he inspired, how I inspired. And that gave me, when that ball went up, I felt like I had the energy of Hank and I, and I just never felt that before. I felt like I run for days. And I know when we first decided to play, I told the team as the captain, I said, listen, the team said we're going to play for our love of Hank. We were writing Hank's number. The younger teammates were writing Hank's name, his number on their sneakers and all over and stuff. And I said that, look, they said we're going to play for Hank. And I said, well, guys, look, we love Hank and respect Hank no matter what. So I thought it was misplaced energy to, like if we don't win a game, it doesn't mean we don't love Hank. So let's just kind of redirect our energy. So that was my advice. Well, that advice went in one ear and out the other, Jeff, because I can promise you, when that ball went up, the only thing that everybody was thinking about was their love and respect and the pain and everything that represented what they were thinking about Hank and playing for Inspired Basketball because of their love for Hank, playing for Hank. And as a result, we made it to the Final 8, which was for Loyola Marymount at that time. That's pretty much a championship in our mind. just a small school, and just, what at the end, the fact that we just made it that far without Hank was so inspiring, not, to ourselves. We just put that pain into our play, and we had an extra purpose in everything that we were doing. So when we were going for a loose ball, everybody all of a sudden is playing like Tom Peabody, who played like that every day in every game and in practice. But everybody was just playing, just inspired basketball for their love of Hank. And as a result, we made it to the final 8.
Bo, one thing that I'll always remember, and I think everybody who watched that tournament will always remember, is when you shot that free throw lefty, right? I mean, it was like the ultimate compliment, tribute to Hank Gathers. How did you come up with that, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, so thank you for asking me about that. The late Father Dave Hagan, and Hank's mother, his immediate family, my immediate family, they were all in Los Angeles for that tournament at the for the weekend of March 4th. And so I was talking to the late Father Hagan, and I was telling him what the teammates were doing with his number and his name. And I said, well, Father Dave, I'm going to shoot the first free throw left-handed to honor Hank. And the reason I did that is Hank Gathers was a workhorse, and I was blessed to have natural abilities and natural skills, but Hank really, really had to work 3 and 4 times harder to become the Hank Gathers that the world got a chance to know. And free throws was one of the things he spent an alarming amount of time before practice, after practice, and I witnessed it. So I felt that there was no better way for me to celebrate his work ethic and celebrate, him, by taking the first free throw of every game. And I told CBS, I told all the networks, I said, listen, I'm going to take the first free throw left-handed. It does not matter if I make the shot or not. I could care less. I want to make it,
Of course,
but missing it was not going to take away from honoring Hank. So it meant the same to me, but I was trying to make it. And the fact that all 3 of those shots in the tournament went in, but when I look at when I look back at it, I can remember every time I see the left-handed free throw, I remember exactly how I was feeling at that time. And I can tell you that when the moment I got fouled, that moment, that until the ball got in my hand, I wasn't thinking about nothing but my love and respect of Hank. I was talking to Hank mentally, and it was all a divine moment to just honor my buddy. And I was saying things like, I love you, Hank. But it was almost like I had blocked out the stadium on all 3 shots. I was in that stadium by myself. It was me and Hank. And I think when your heart is in the right place, your spirit is in the right place, there's always an outer power. And Hank and God made that go in, because I can tell you there should have been a air ball or a brick like Hank's, because I barely practice. Maybe 10 shots I would take after practice, maybe 15 the max, just to have it look presentable. And but that was it.
You're just hoping you'd hit the rim, right? You're just hoping you hit the rim.
Yeah, I'm just going to honor my buddy, and whatever happens, happen. I wasn't worrying about making it or missing it at all. It was all about honoring Hank Gathers. And
the craziest thing of that, Bo, is you're without, arguably one of the top players in the country. I mean, people kind of compare him to Charles Barkley now, and that's not far off in some respects, the way he played the game. But you're without him. You're without the second leading scorer and the leading rebounder in the country. And you guys make a run a game away. If you don't run into UNLV again, you probably make the Final Four. How remarkable was it? And I guess how improbable was it, even for you looking back on it, that you were able to make that run without Hank?
Yeah. So ironically enough, when Hank Gathers, fainted in the Santa Barbara game, he was out for about 3 weeks. And during that 3 weeks, I went from averaging 35 a game. I had 5 games in a row with over 50 points. And we won most of those games. We beat UNLV. I'm sorry. We beat Oregon State with Gary Payton up in Oregon State. I had 53 in that game. Gary Payton had 48 in that game. He played amazing, but we beat them without Hank. We played University of Oklahoma. I had 57 in that game. So I had 50 points or more. And so we knew that we can play without Hank, and we knew we could score and do well. So to be quite honest, when the tournament started, I actually still thought we were going to win the whole championship, to be quite honest. That's how I felt, because we averaged 124 points a game. So and again, when he was out with the getting the medical testing for his heart, we played tremendously well, and we were able to absorb, some of Hank points. Now against UNLV, of course, who was so dominant underneath, and then ironically enough, their guards, Anthony Hunt and those guys usually shoot about 30%.
Anderson Hunt, Greg Anthony,
yeah, Greg. They normally shot about 30% from the three. That day they shot about 50%. So we knew we couldn't deal with the inside, but now these guys are hitting threes. So it just wasn't meant to be. But I just felt that for our guys, our young team, to people like Chris Knight, who didn't even want to start in Hank Gathers' spot. He's like, I can't replace Hank Gathers. I mean, he didn't want that prep, but he stepped up and played tremendously well. Chris Scott, who was a freshman, who played hard, had a lot of during the season, he would have some footwork issues, traveling sometimes, get a little happy feet. All of a sudden, he's playing with his love of Hank. All of a sudden, he's blocking shots, head faking, passing the ball in traffic. I'm like, so when I look back at that, it makes me feel so proud of our entire team. Jeff Fryer scoring, 40-something, 42 points against Michigan. And we blow the defending champions out by 35 points when none of the professionals gave us a chance to beat them. So when you look back at it, 31 years and celebrating our records, our team records, Hank Gathers records, and my 30 records I'm proud to have. None of that stuff would have happened, I think, if we wasn't playing for Paul Westhead in his scoring system. And I do hope one day I get the privilege to give a Division I team that opportunity when I'm the head coach.
How did your life change from that run, from that tournament run? How did that? Obviously, people knew who you were going into it, leading scorer in the country. But with that run from start to finish, how did your life change?
So a lot of people come up to me and they remember our team. So which is amazing what we did. They remember Hank Gathers, which is awesome. We think of Hank every day, and and so a lot of people say, well, Bo, how do you feel always being associated with Hank Gathers? Well, Hank Gathers was such an amazing person and like a brother. So that doesn't bother me at all. I had my own identity. As you mentioned, I was number one scorer in the world, regardless if Hank was alive or not. So I do have my own identity. But what has changed is that people remember that time, they respect that time. So our whole story is quite different than a normal sports story. It has success, it has tragedy, and entertainment all bottled in it, together. So when I think of Hank Gathers, I do not think of the way Hank died. I actually think of the way Hank lived. So I think about him and I talk about him every day, either personally or some fan will come up and say, hey, man, I just want to shake your hand. I love that Loyola system and what you did for Hank. They talk about the free throw. They remember Hank. So all of that stuff for me to be when you're 23 years old and all you're doing is just doing your best and a system is doing your best. And you look back at that, you're part of history forever. The records of being the 8th pick in the NBA draft, the number one scorer in the world. After the previous year, Jeff, I wasn't on the Street and Smith magazine list of 500 players.
Wow.
And I told Doug Overton, I said, next year, because Hank led the nation in scoring our junior year, and I knew I was a better scorer than Hank. I said, Hank inspired me to want to lead the nation in scoring the following year. So I didn't say I'm going to try to lead the nation in scoring. I told Doug Overton, I'm going to lead the nation in scoring. And the fact that I proved Mark Blake, who wrote the article in the Street and Smith magazine, prove all of them wrong, that I should have been on that list. And the fact that of those 500 names, I felt that I was the number one player. And the fact that I finished the season being the number one scorer in the world, that's one of the things I say to kids all the time when I do public speaking. I let them know, it doesn't matter what other people think about you. What do you think about you? And I thought that I was the number one player in that draft, and being a higher scorer, sitting at the NBA draft was my dream come true.
Well, listen, we appreciate you joining us, Bo. 1990 NCAA tournament, unforgettable run, and again, continued success.
Thank you so much, Jeff, for thinking about me and reminiscing about our team. And go Loyola Lions, and God bless you, man. Stay safe.